The headlines are relentless. We start this new year with the state of Israel yet again being overrepresented in the media. The calamities of Ukraine, Syria, and other parts of the world are barely making the news. Israel is obsessively covered, almost always critically, which is indicative of the world's anti-Semitic preoccupation. Meanwhile, the remaining hostages seem to escape the media's attention. But we have not forgotten them. I want to say that each of us is entitled to our opinions. I have passionate opinions, and you are welcome to disagree with me. Two facts that remain true are that in order for the wound that was October 7th to ever stand a chance of healing, the hostages must come home, and Hamas must not remain in control of anything. What the media misses is that Israel is not a monolith. Israeli society is diverse and complex. You can love your country and passionately object to the leaders in its government, whether in the United States or in Israel. This means we need to stand against anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism and object to Israel being represented unfairly. Let us be clear. White supremacy, neo-Nazism, and so-called Christian nationalism are obvious anti-Semitism. Tucker Carlson dog whistling that Jews murdered Jesus at Charlie Kirk's memorial is the most recent form of this. But holding all Jews worldwide accountable for the actions of the Israeli government is also anti-Semitism. Targeting Jewish college students for the war in Gaza is anti-Semitism. The double standards to which the state of Israel is held in the media and at the UN are anti-Semitism. So-called human rights organizations only focusing on one side is anti-Semitism. Women's groups being slow to condemn the sexual violence against Israeli women that occurred on October 7th is anti-Semitism. Letting China, Russia, and Iran indoctrinate our youth through social media enables anti-Semitism. Yes, we are also against Islamophobia and all forms of bigotry. But the fact that we have to qualify our statements regarding hatred of Jews by saying we are also against other forms of hate in order to be heard, and no one else has to do that, is a form of anti-Semitism. That's another double standard. And yes, not all criticism of Israel is anti-Semitism. Of course not. Israelis criticize Israel. Hundreds of thousands of Israelis have been demonstrating in the streets almost weekly for over 2 years. I personally support the Israeli protesters and think Israel needs to be saved physically and morally from Netanyahu and his right-wing coalition. Every time Prime Minister Netanyahu, Minister Ben-Gvir, and Minister Smotrich open their mouths and say something hateful and indefensible, they undermine Israel's cause and help make Israel a pariah state. There is also no contradiction between defending Israel and caring about Palestinian children. Our hearts break, and we don't want Palestinians to starve, be displaced, or have bombs falling on them. It's devastating beyond words. But we also know all this could end and would have ended long ago if Hamas would release the hostages. First and foremost, Hamas is to blame. The Palestinians also need to be freed from Hamas. And yes, there are forms of anti-Zionism and non-Zionism that are not anti-Semitic. The Satmar Hasidim and the Yiddish Workmen's Circle are examples. Or Israel might not be your thing. You can be Jewish and not like Israel. You can be Jewish and not believe in God. You can be Jewish and never go to synagogue. But the land of Israel is absolutely central to Jewish history, rituals, and prayers, as are God and the synagogue. These kinds of debates are red herrings, distractions from the substance of the issue, which is hatred and violence against Jews. Let's not play games. The overwhelming majority of anti-Zionism today is anti-Semitism. Anti-Zionism, singling out Israel as the Jew among nations, is today's most prevalent form of anti-Semitism. This past year, in the aftermath of the murder of Sarah Milgram and Sharon Linshinsky in DC outside the Jewish Museum, the shooter said he did it for Gaza. It happened again in Boulder, Colorado, with an arsonist killing Karen Diamond and burning others. The overlap between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism is overwhelming. Just as treacherous, the information war in the media is real and has consequences. Last month, I shared a post criticizing Netanyahu on Facebook, only to learn later that the photograph accompanying the news story I shared was taken out of context. Even the news sources we think of as trustworthy might no longer be relied upon. And what do we do when the Israeli government, the IDF, and the majority of Israelis are all on different pages saying different things? What does it mean to stand with Israel under these confusing circumstances? We are either fed misinformation about Israel or read the actual words of Israeli politicians like Smotrich and Ben-Gvir and are understandably repulsed. We apparently don't need anti-Semites to alienate the next generation of Jews from Israel. Ministers in the Israeli government can do that all by themselves. Israel faces not only external dangers, but an internal threat of fanaticism within our own ranks. If the first challenge is to stand against anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism, then our second task must be to stand up for Israelis who share our values. Hundreds of thousands of Israelis are fighting for the Israeli future, and they need our support and solidarity. To be a Zionist means to stand for a state of Israel for all of Am Yisrael. The situation is complex, more than the headlines mercilessly depict. So I want to shift from these negative challenges to something positive and important that is also happening inside of Israel. I would like now to point to the work of the Reform movement and what the Reform movement is doing in Israel, of which we should all be proud. Let us lift up the wonderful side of Israel too few people are talking about. Israel is an incredible country with a tapestry of amazing people and extraordinary accomplishments, and our Reform movement in Israel is a part of that beauty and good work. Our Reform Israeli rabbis and their communities stand for a state of Israel that is both a Jewish homeland and a democracy, respecting the rights of everyone in a pluralist society. I will highlight the activities of just 5 Israeli Reform rabbis of the many who are trying to transform the state of Israel into the kind of Jewish state it was meant to be. First, my friend and colleague, Rabbi Edgar Nof, heads Gisharim L'Tikva, Bridges for Hope. He feeds 21 Holocaust survivors' households, all of whom are in their late 80s and 90s. As Rabbi Nof says, they live in hostels or humble small apartments in poor neighborhoods. Because of the bad economy in Israel following the long war with Hamas, and is so precarious, the support from the state of Israel to the Holocaust survivors decreased. And the food is expensive with rising prices constantly. There are also 50 underprivileged families, representing about 200 souls, depending on our monthly help to buy food. And many parents called me saying that because nobody can go to work, they are even more in need. Rabbi Nof also runs congregational and educational activities in 5 elementary schools, reaching about 1,000 children, and he often officiates at non-Orthodox B'nai Mitzvah. Rabbi Naama Kelman, dean at our Reform Seminary, Hebrew Union College in Jerusalem, reports that our congregational and regional rabbis are in the trenches leading tefillah, doing life cycle rituals, comforting mourners, and helping the vulnerable. We have 54 kihilot, congregations of varied sizes, but our impact is greater. Once people attend our weddings and sadly the funerals, they discover the Judaism they seek. Our rabbis lead in interfaith work and shared society programs. We preach, speak, and model a prophetic, caring, community-building Judaism without coercion and with love and inclusion. We do this despite the constant dismissal and disinformation of the Orthodox establishment and the indifference of secular Israelis and with limited resources. We speak a Jewish democratic Zionism committed to equality and social justice, all steeped in the Torah that belongs to all of us. Rabbi Liora Ezrachi-Vered adds that the Israeli Reform rabbis are leading communities and supporting members who have been directly or indirectly affected by October 7th. They are leading prayer circles and protests for the hostages. Many are very political and are active leaders in the protest movement. She says, "I've been focusing my work on interfaith and shared society. I feel that my rabbinate is for all citizens of Israel. Many of us are using culture and the arts to bring our message out with new music and poetry, including for a new Israeli Reform Machzor." Perhaps most prominently, Rabbi Gilad Kariv is not only an Israeli Reform rabbi, but is also a member of Knesset. He's at the front lines of standing up to the ultra-Orthodox establishment and speaking for an inclusive and humane Israeli society. He has taken the brunt of bigotry from other Jews, but has persevered. Recently, he invoked the prophet Nathan, who spoke up to King David to call his own government to account. He speaks the language of Torah to those who think they have an exclusive monopoly on its truth. Finally, I want to highlight the work of Rabbi Chen Ben Or Tzafoni, the senior rabbi of Kehila Rana Beit Shmueli. In addition to her congregational work, she has been hosting meetings at her synagogue of the Parents Circle, which is a group of bereaved parents of both Israeli Jews and Palestinians who have lost a child in the conflict. They come together to share their grief with one another and to ask for a different future. They say, "Our power is our pain." If there is ever going to be peace in the region, it will be because of people like these. Devastatingly, because Rabbi Tzafoni dared bring Jews and Palestinians together for a joint memorial on Yom HaZikaron, Israeli Memorial Day, her synagogue was actually physically attacked by right-wing Israeli Jews in a riot that needed to be stopped by police. In response to this disgrace, she wrote, "A time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. The path from sorrow to hope is not linear. Grief and healing, despair and faith, they coexist. Jewish tradition teaches us that we cry with the same eyes through which we laugh. For a year and a half, we have lived in this tension between despair and hope, between independence and its profound costs. And now we must walk forward together toward life, toward light. Since last night, we have received an outpouring of support and love from communities across Israel and around the world. We are not alone. Our synagogue has become a symbol of faith, of resilience, and of love for all humanity. Together, we will continue to pray for peace, for the release of our captives, and for the enduring strength of hope. So here is what we can do. We need to stand against anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism at home, but we also have to do so in a joyful way. We don't want our Jewish identities, especially for our young people, to feel like we are at risk. We want being Jewish to feel bright and celebratory, and I believe that nothing good ever came from being timid. Instead, we should be loud and proud. Wear your star out of your shirt and display your mezuzah on your home or office boldly for all to see. Remember, our mission is to live lives of public, joyful Judaism. In this vein, at Temple Sinai, we send packages several times a year to all of our registered college students. This year, we're going to buy a mezuzah case and a kosher scroll to go inside of it for each of our registered students for their college rooms. If you have not yet registered the students in your home, or you need to update their address, please do so ASAP. Housing changes frequently for students, and we need current information. We will be sending these mezuzot out in our next round of college packages. And yes, this is expensive for the temple. The parchment costs more than the mezuzah case. But proclaiming Jewish identity is important. We need to teach the next generation to be bold. Being Jewish is a blessing, and we are here to support you. And just as we need to stand up against anti-Semitism here, we also need to stand up for Israelis who share our values there. We can visit Israel, send our youth on programs like Yalla Israel, and nurture our vision of Judaism there. We can read the Times of Israel, which is a good news source. In addition to JNF USA and Hadassah, we should support Reform Zionism through ARTSA, which is part of the Union for Reform Judaism, Women of the Wall, and the Israeli Religious Action Center, which is fighting for a pluralistic homeland that includes all of us. Israeli Reform rabbis are the leaders who are showing us the way. The future of Israel and Judaism might in fact depend upon them and us.